Hey guys, welcome to our latest update preview. Today, we're going to talk about everything that's coming up in Doom Tower version 2. This is one of 2 Doom Tower updates we're currently working on, and it's a big one. It's our first alternate tower rotation. It's going to switch things up and give you a whole new challenge. Stuff like changing the enemy balance on regular floors, more secret room requirements, 2 brand new artifact sets to craft, and most importantly, 2 brutal new bosses to take on. However, it won't be completely uncharted territory. This new rotation is going to include 2 new bosses, but also mix in 2 of the old guard bosses from the first rotation. And since we'll now have 2 full tower rotations, every month from this point forward, we're going to cycle between the first rotation, with the Frost Spider as the final boss, and this new second rotation. Now, you know the basics. Let's get into the meaty part of this video, the bosses and the new rewards. First up, Grytheon the Celestial Griffin. Now, this guy might look like he's descended from the heavens, but he's not your guardian angel. It just means he's going to bring a godly amount of pain. The Griffin's first skill isn't too complex, but it's still a threat. It's a single target attack that casts a fear debuff, so it can throw a wrench in the works of any team if you're not prepared. The second skill, Rock Smash, turns things up a notch. It starts by transferring any and all debuffs from the Griffin onto every single member of your team. Then follows that up by hitting your entire team with a huge AoE attack. If you've thrown a decreased defense debuff or a weakened debuff on the Griffin, you could be in real trouble if he gets this skill off. And even if you survive, your champions could end up with stacks of unwanted debuffs. If that's not enough, Grytheon's turn meter will be filled by 5% for each debuff he successfully transfers onto your team. Just 1 debuff transferred onto 5 team members will mean a 25% boost. So, if you've been loading the Griffin up with debuffs, you could be giving him a free turn to instantly follow up with another attack. I know what you're thinking. Just block the debuff transfer with block debuffs, right? Well, his third skill, Death Gust, will put a stop to that. First, it removes all buffs from your team. Then it hits your whole team with a hard-hitting AoE attack. The buff removal can't be resisted, and the skill's damage increases by 10% for each buff removed. It's not something you want. This isn't to say your buffers or debuffers need to sit this one out. You just need to manage their skills perfectly or be able to handle the consequences. Now, aside from the active skills we've mentioned, the Celestial Griffin also has a few unique passive skills. The first is simple. It's called Divine Strike, and it means anytime one of your champions drops below 50% HP, Grytheon will attack that champion and cast a block heal debuff. Next up is Fair Wind, and this is where things get a lot trickier. This passive stops turn meter manipulation dead in its tracks. There are no stop the boss from ever getting a turn tactics here. Every time you decrease Grytheon's turn meter, he'll decrease your entire team's turn meter by the same amount. And anytime you boost any of your own champion's turn meters, Grytheon will also boost his own turn meter by the same amount. Boost 2 champions, and he'll get twice the boost. 3, and well, you get the picture. Like I said, tricky. And that's not all you have to deal with. The Griffin also has another passive, Celestial Bond, which gives him 1 stack of a completely unique buff at the start of every turn he gets, as well as whenever one of your champions drops below 50% health. This special buff is called Sky Bond, and it boosts the Griffin's attack, crit rate, damage, and speed. He can stack Sky Bond up to 20 times for 20 times the stat boosts. And the buff can't be blocked or removed. Oh, and once he gets a certain number of Sky Bond stacks, all his attacks will ignore your shield, block damage, and unkillable buffs. Oof! We can't wait to see which strategies you come up with to take this bird down. Will you rely on raw speed to outpace him? Will you brute force your way to victory? Or will you come up with something completely unique? However you get the job done, the rewards will be worth the effort. Introducing the Guardian Artifact Set. Like all Doom Tower bosses, you'll be able to farm the Griffin for crafting materials. In this case, you'll be farming Griffin feathers to craft this crazy new artifact set. Think of Guardian artifacts like giving your team a permanent, passive, ally protection buff, combined with a passive heal for the wearer every single turn. If you can keep the wearer alive through the damage absorption, just a single Guardian set can help your team outlast whoever they're fighting against. Okay, that's 1 boss and 1 new artifact set. Now on to boss number 2. Iragoth, the Eternal Dragon, and her 2 types of minions, Eternal Priests and Eternal Guards. The way the Eternal Dragon fights is unlike anything you've ever seen in boss battles so far. She centers around increasing the cooldowns of your team's active skills, then taking advantage while you can't do much about it. Her first skill is called Spike Storm, and it's a strong AoE attack that prevents your team from using their active skills for 1 turn. That's the easy part. Next up, she's got the 1-2 combo of Soul Burst and Spirit Rush. Soul Burst hits all your champions, then puts every single one of their skills on full cooldown. After that, it boosts the dragon's turn meter for every turn of cooldown remaining across every single one of your team's skills. This means she often immediately follows up with Spirit Rush, which is a real heavy hitter. The damage of this AoE attack increases by 20% for every single turn of cooldown remaining on each skill throughout your whole team. Yeah, that's as scary as it sounds, and it can result in some absolutely insane damage. This isn't a combo you want to get hit with. Now, onto her passives and her minions. With her Conjure Souls passive, she'll summon 3 minions, 1 Eternal Priest, then 2 Eternal Guards. Her Eternal Guards have a nasty AoE attack that breaks your team's defense, and they also have their own passive that decreases the damage the Eternal Dragon and its other minions take from AoE attacks by a huge 75% each. The Eternal Priest has a single target attack that blocks active skills for 2 turns, but then has a passive skill that actually gives your team a boost. Whenever you kill an Eternal Priest, their Unbound Souls passive will give your whole team a cooldown reset across the board, meaning you can use all your skills again. However, this is where things get a little more complicated. The Eternal Dragon can only have a maximum of 3 minions in battle at any time. And if she's only able to summon 1 or 0 minions with her passive when she gets a turn again, she's going to get her special Eternal Rage buff. It'll boost her speed, let her bypass any of your shield, unkillable, or block damage buffs, and also makes her ignore 50% of your defense every time she attacks. So, you're going to need to focus on taking out a couple of those minions before she gets a turn, or you'll be in for a world of hurt. And if you needed another reason to take down the minions, well, here you go. Her other passive, Consume Soul, means she's going to try and sacrifice an Eternal Priest. And if she does, she's going to reset all her cooldowns. Then get an immediate extra turn to deal out some damage. Oh, and if there's no priest to sacrifice, then she'll just take an Eternal Guard instead and give herself a decent-sized heal. This skill starts the fight on cooldown, so you don't need to deal with it straight away, but when it's up, make sure you pay attention. And one quick tip. While you can't decrease Iragoth's turn meter or slow her down, you can hit her with skills that increase her own cooldowns so you can give her a taste of her own medicine. Alright, that's the boss broken down. Strategy here is going to be key, and the dragon is going to give you something completely new to think about in the world of raid bosses. The more active skills your champions have, the more hurt she's going to bring. So team composition will be a challenge in its own right. And stronger skills usually have longer cooldowns. So managing that risk-reward balance is a big part of it. Throw in the fact that you have to deal with her minions, and you're going to need to make a lot of tough calls and react to the situation on the fly. But again, big challenge, big reward. Farming dragon bones from the Eternal Dragon will let you craft the all-new Bloodthirst artifact set. This set combines 2 of my favorite things in life, vampires and, crit rate. It gives you a boosted crit rate plus 30% lifesteal. It's a strong upgrade on the lifesteal set and will give your squishy damage dealers a big boost in the survival department. Alright, one last thing before we go. We're also changing the tower rankings. Rankings will now be based on the number of turns it takes you to beat a floor and climb the tower. This means it's going to be real easy to measure how strong or efficient you are on any floor, and compare that against your friends' teams. It's a simple challenge, but it's going to make a big difference to your overall team building strategy for the tower. And that's all we got for you in this video. We hope you'll enjoy the new bosses, the challenges they bring, and the rewards you'll get for beating those challenges. As always, hit like and subscribe to keep up to date with what we have planned for the realm of Teleria. Until next time, happy raiding!